An instant date doesn't need to be this crazy big ordeal. And I think that's the problem a lot of dudes make when they think about going on an instant date. They think that we're talking to the girl, I get her really into me, and then I pretty much ask her on a date right now, and she's so into me that she agrees to going on a date with me now, and then we go do this crazy activity. And that's simply not the case. One of the biggest things about making instant dates happen is portraying them in a way where it's not a big deal, it's not a big time commitment, and it's very low investment. Pretty much explaining to the girl that she could leave at any time. And with that comes not doing some crazy activity, not framing it in a way where it's actually a date. I want you to look at it as just a means of moving the interaction somewhere. I ran a boot camp not too long ago, and there was several clients that by the end of the first day, they were hooking sets during the daytime. They were getting girls to stop. They were engaging in conversation. And most dudes have a tendency of just standing there and talking to the girl, right? And they would have just kept talking. When I started telling these guys, because I was literally talking into their ear, they had a wireless headpiece in, I'm telling the dude, start moving the interaction somewhere. Okay, so if you stop with the girl, the moment I see that she's actually engaged and she's committed to stopping and continuing the conversation with me, all I'm thinking is like, let's start moving the conversation somewhere. And I don't mean like the topic of conversation, I mean our bodies. Like, let's actually just start moving somewhere. So you don't need to be like, hey, so like, this is going really good and I enjoy you. I was just curious, like, do you want to go on a date with me right now? Like, if you do that, the girl's gonna be like, honestly, like, I'm meeting up with some people, like, you're really sweet, but like, maybe you could take my number. Like, that's what's gonna happen. And it's because you're framing the interaction like it's this massive ordeal. The more you can make it not a big commitment, not a big time restriction or time commitment, the more it just seems like the conversation is just like flowing this way, the more likely you're gonna get girls to come with you. So oftentimes when you stop and you're talking, you're vibing with the girl, you don't even need to say anything. You can just go from stopping. If I'm squared up talking to her, I just pivot my body and start slowly walking while we're talking. I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. I start slowly walking. As long as the girl's engaged, she'll start going with you. From there, you can just be like, oh, well, let's just go over this way. I'm just imagining like I'm in Manhattan, because that's like where I would do day game, and that's where I learned day game. So if I'm in Washington Square Park, or if I'm on a street and you stop a girl and she's locked in talking to you, it's not a big deal for you to just start pivoting and walking casually. The moment you say, hey, like, do you want to go on a date with me right now? Well, that's the moment she has to sit there and think logically about, do I actually want to go on a date with this guy? No, I don't know this guy like that. That's weird to do in the daytime. No, I got to do this, this, and this. If she's engaged in the conversation, she's just wrapped up in conversation, and maybe she's even thinking about what you're about to say because you're like mid-story, and as you're telling the story, you're actually like, anyway, let's just walk this way. And then you keep talking, she's just gonna go with you. And then before you know it, you're walking down the street. And again, that's the instant date, guys, is us walking down the street. It's not we go to a 5-star dinner. The instant date is we're here, we just start moving somewhere. You don't even necessarily need to know where you're going after that. And this has happened countless times. I'm literally in the client's ear and I told him, she's hooked, start walking. Start leading. When I say lead, I just tell them, start walking. And then they start walking down the street. And while they're doing that, I'm literally on my phone typing in cafe nearby, right? And then I'm telling the client, I'm like, cool, dude, there's a fucking coffee shop a block and a half coming up on your right. And then the client just keeps walking. And then as they're getting closer, he's like, oh, actually, let's just stop in here real quick. I wanted to grab a coffee. And they're already engaged in conversation. The girl's already walking with you, and it's not a big deal. Because it's right there, it's not a big investment. I didn't make her give me some crazy commitment to hang out with me for the next 2 hours. I just said, hey, let's walk this way. I may have not even said it. I may have just started walking. And as we're going down the street, I'm like, oh, actually, let's stop in here real quick. I just want to grab a coffee. Look at how low investment that sounds. It doesn't sound like we're going on a date. It doesn't sound like we're doing anything. Oh, let me just stop in here real quick. I'm just gonna grab a coffee for 2 seconds. That's literally the instant date. And before you know it, I grab the coffee, we're in there. I might even be like, oh, do you want anything, by the way? It's all good, I got it. I'm just gonna get a small coffee. You want like a tea or anything? She may say yes, she may say no, whatever. If she wants coffee, cool. Pay for the coffee. You just brought her into the fucking coffee store. Don't be stingy and I'm not gonna pay for the girl. We're gonna split the shit. Dude, like, it's okay to pay for the girl on the instant date. It's not a big deal. Get the coffee and then just go sit down. Like literally, just go sit down. She will sit for a little bit. The reason she won't go on the date is because it seems like a big commitment. So the more subtle it is, the more nonchalant, the more it's nothing and we're just doing this little thing, you can get her to commit to the next step and the next step and the next step and the next step. And from there, you could even sit down, get a coffee, even bounce to actually go grab a drink from there or actually go get some food if you wanted to extend it. Before you know it, you could actually end up in a 1, 2, 3 hour interaction. I had a client, we were doing day game. I brought him into Washington Square. Probably had already done 15 interactions and he was really struggling to get past the very beginning of the conversation. After about 10, 15 approaches and me talking in his ear, he started hooking the sets. And at some point I told him, dude, this set's hooked, start leading. He starts walking down the street. Fast forward 2.5 hours later, he ended up going with this girl to grab a coffee. Then from there, they sat down. Then from there, they kept walking. And then from there, they found this nice little outside dine-in place where they ended up sitting down, getting a drink. And that led to ordering a little bit of finger food. And the girl got a cookie. And then they got another round. It was like a 2.5 hour instant date. Now up front, if he would have went straight up to that girl and said, oh, the set's going well. Hey, excuse me, do you want to go like out to dinner with me on a date? The girl would have been like, honestly, no, right? Because it sounds like a massive fucking commitment. So you need to understand the concept of like the first 5 seconds will buy you the next 15 seconds, which will buy you the next 30 seconds, which will buy you the next 2 minutes, which will buy you the next 5 minutes, which will buy you the next 15, which will buy you the next hour. Okay, so if you play it well, you can just baby step it along until you actually are on a full-blown instant date. Main takeaways from this concept is it's not a big deal. There's no pressure. I'm not making it sound like she's gonna hang out with me for hours on end because she's really not too. Like we're just starting to get to know this girl. For all I know, we walk for 2 blocks and I'm like, this girl's fucking whack. I don't even wanna see her anymore. Maybe that's happened to some of you guys. You think the girl's so amazing. You go up and you approach her 2 minutes into the set, you're like, she's actually not as hot as I thought she was. Or now I'm talking about it, it's like, I don't know, it's just not what I was anticipating it was. That's actually common too. So it's not a big deal. There's no time commitment and you're not gonna like hold this girl for hours on end. And then the way you go about moving the interaction to the next step is in a casual, nonchalant way. And oftentimes you may not even need to say anything. It's just a matter of leading the girl, bringing the girl somewhere. Same thing goes for night game. If I'm gonna isolate her to the bar, I'm not like, hey, come with me over to the bar. We're gonna be over there for like the next hour. It's very small, it's not a big investment. Let's go grab a drink real quick and we'll come right back. 2 seconds, let's go grab a drink real quick and we'll come right back. You see how small of a task I'm asking from her? The smaller the task, the smaller the investment, the higher the likelihood that she's actually gonna agree to go and do it. I'll give you one example. This is a very short one. There was a girl I approached in ShopRite one time. We made eye contact. I was checking out, she was walking past. I stopped her at the front door of ShopRite. We had just gone outside of ShopRite and the set flew open. We started talking. We're a couple minutes into the interaction. Now, if I just stay there, eventually it's gonna get to a point where the girl's like, okay, well, like, I gotta get going because we're in a weird, awkward place in the middle of a grocery store, right? So what I did is before it got to a point where the girl was actually ready to walk away and leave, I was aware of that and I proactively led the girl. And oftentimes, you don't need to take the girl to go do some activity. It's like you just walk with the girl to the same place that she was gonna go anyway once you leave the interaction. And you let her know you're just gonna go with her just for a couple blocks and then you gotta get going. So I literally told her I knew I was parked over there and I knew by her body language, like, it was very unlikely that she was gonna go out the store and go around the corner as well. So while we were outside, I was like, oh, like, where are you parked, by the way? I was like, are you over here? And I'm just pointing towards the parking lot. She was like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. Let's just walk this way for a minute. That's the equivalent to what I was just saying before about we're stopped and then I just pivot and start walking. We're in conversation about where she's from. Oh shit, you're from Randolph? Damn, actually, I went to CCM. Actually, I did a semester over there. Are you parked over here, by the way? Okay, yeah, let's just go over this way, and then I'm actually over there. But I spent 2 semesters in CCM, believe it or not. Okay, and that's me figuring out where she's going, and I just say I'm gonna walk with her, and then I keep going into conversation, and now we're on the move. If it was on the street and I stopped her, I said, oh, are you actually headed this way? Oh, okay, cool, I'll walk with you for like 2 blocks, and then I gotta head out. And I just start walking with her. Or if she's with her friend too, oh, you guys headed this way? Okay, cool, yeah. I'll walk with you guys for like 2 blocks and then I gotta get going. How do you guys all know each other, by the way? Now I'm starting to walk with them for a couple blocks. I don't need to go on a whole instant date with them. It could literally end after several blocks, but just from moving the conversation from that initial location, it makes the interaction a lot stronger and it buys you more time and it feels less like a pickup when we're just sitting here, because the longer you're in the same spot, the more and more and more, eventually the girl's gonna start looking around, start logical brain thinking, hey, we gotta get back to doing what we were doing. So if you can walk with the girl, it actually creates less resistance, buys you more time, and time is in your favor when you're in interaction. If you ever feel like it's a little uncomfortable, you just add in the false time constraint to let her know you're not gonna cling to her. So even if we're in the grocery store and I'm going up the aisles, in the back of my mind, I'm probably thinking, well, if I'm following her around the grocery store, it's gonna be weird. So what I don't want is her to think I'm following her around the grocery store. So what you wanna do is you give her that false time constraint or that acknowledgement of, hey, I'm not gonna be following you around the store, but we're talking. And I'm like, oh no shit, you're vegan too? Wait, how long have you been vegan? That's so crazy. As we're moving the carts, I'd be like, yo, that's so interesting. Actually, I do gotta get back to my grocery shopping in a minute, but like, what's one thing about being a vegan? And now I start talking to her again. But I give her that sentence that says, hey, I'm gonna get back to my grocery shopping pretty fucking soon. I'm not gonna be here like stalking you around ShopRite. So you can do this shit anywhere. The more of a weird environment you feel like it is, the more acknowledgement you need to give to the situation, that's all. So if I'm in the gym and talking, I'm like, oh shit, I actually gotta get back to my workout, but blah, 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 blah. Oh, actually, I gotta get back to my grocery shopping in a minute, but I was just curious. I'll walk with you for like 2 blocks and then I actually gotta get going. Oh, you're gonna be chilling here? Cool, I'll sit down with you for like a minute. I actually gotta meet up with some friends soon. It's always letting them know I'm not gonna be some clingy weirdo.